Your Mama's Kitchen is brought to you by Rivian.
Mama, what's wrong with Granny's mac and cheese? She's like, nothing's wrong with it. I'm like, are you serious? This is not Granny's mac and cheese. And I think I was the first person who I was like, I'm interviewing people. Now I'm saying, okay, do you remember what Granny's mac and cheese was like? Do you remember it having the cheese sauce and sticking together and the cheese on top and it was kind of brown and crusty around the edges? This ain't that. This is not right. What's wrong with Granny?
And so you were the one who paid attention. That was your first clue.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Your Mama's Kitchen. This is a place where we explore how we are shaped as adults by the kitchens that we grew up in as kids. And yes, I'm talking about the food, but so much other stuff as well. The laughter, the rivalries, the music on the radio, the way you'd snap your towel at your siblings when you were doing the dishes after dinner. I'm Michele Norris, and our guest today is Carla Hall, and I'm so excited about this. She made a name for herself competing on 2 separate seasons of Top Chef and sharing all the time her philosophy, her beautiful philosophy that cooking is really all about love. She went on to host and judge on many other shows, including Worst Cooks in America and Top Chef. She's written 2 children's books, and she has written several cookbooks that I use in my own kitchen, which is why I am so excited to talk to Carla today. Hey, Carla.
Hi, Michele. It's so great to chat with you.
It's really great to be with you. You know, I'm a big fan of yours, and we've been trying to nail this down for a while. Glad that we caught you in New York City, and glad that we caught up with you in December, because it's a time when a lot of people are heading to the kitchen to cook for their families, to make cookies and cakes and all kinds of confections. And I know that you're probably busy in December also whipping up things for your own family. But I want to take you back to your family story, because here at Your Mama's Kitchen, we always begin with this simple question. Tell me about Your Mama's Kitchen. You grew up in Nashville. I think you are the first person that we've talked to in 80 episodes now that's from Nashville. And I think you also might be the first person from Tennessee. So can you tell me what it was like growing up in a Tennessee kitchen?
Okay, first of all, you can never have another first. So I'm very excited. So talking about my mama's kitchen is very different than my grandmother's kitchen. So in my mom's kitchen, she didn't really like to cook. She had a rotation of maybe 5 things. And she was more or less like, get in there, get out. But I do remember spending time at the kitchen table and doing my homework. It was also a place where we were reprimanded.
Uh-oh, you were getting into trouble?
Right. It was a place where we talked about our day. Growing up, it was a very small kitchen. I feel like it was kind of a place to eat, but I never thought about cooking because my mother didn't really bring joy to cooking. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. She eats for sustenance. So it was like a necessary thing.
It wasn't her ministry.
Correct.
But you were nourished. She fed you.
Mm-hmm.
5 things in rotation. Mm-hmm. What were those 5 things?
Meatloaf, which I love. Okay. Spaghetti, hamburger helper, shake and bake, and a pot roast.
Shake and bake?
Girl, and I helped.
Shake it. You shake. Oh my God, I haven't thought about that commercial. And I helped. Now, there are young people who are going to be listening to this and like, what are they talking about? There was this commercial that was in heavy rotation where all you did is put the stuff in a bag and shake it and bake it. And there was a little kid who touched the bag, I guess. And then he said,
and I helped.
Do they still sell shake and bake?
I think it's by Reynolds, and I think they make a baking bag. I honestly don't know if the seasoning mix isn't. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but you know what? We'll get back to the kitchen in a minute, but can we just give props to whoever came up with the name Shake and Bake? Because you wanted it just because it was like Shake and Bake. It sounded like,
Exactly.
like something you do on the dance floor, like Shake and
Right.
Bake. So that was your mama's kitchen.
Yeah.
But I know from watching you and reading your books and knowing a little bit about your life that your grandmother's kitchen was where the magic happened.
Yes.
So can you tell me about that kitchen too?
So my granny's kitchen, she lived in Lebanon, Tennessee. I mean, I had two grandmothers who were very influential. There was Thelma, who lived in Nashville. That was my dad's mom. My maternal grandmother, Granny, I talk a lot about. She lived in Lebanon, Tennessee, and her kitchen was open. She had an open floor plan, and she had this metal divider that's like um, it was like a gate type thing, but this is where she hung all of the plates that when people traveled, they would bring her back one of those state plates. They would bring her back state plates and shot glasses. And she had all of these plates up on that wall. And it was a green formica, sort of a peninsula coming out of the wall. And that's what we would sit, and she would be on the other side with her oven and the countertop. And then I remember the freezer. And I feel like I just remember sitting in those chairs waiting for the food to come out. I did not cook. I was not invited into the kitchen. This was a time when we would go there on Sundays. I'm like, oh my gosh, can we call Granny? Because I want the cornbread to be ready when we get there. And so we don't have to wait. But Granny would never make the cornbread until we were on the inside of her door, you know?
Okay. Is superstition, or she wanted to make sure that the cornbread was piping hot
She
when you
wanted to
cut
make
into
sure
it?
it was piping hot.
Because, warm corn, I mean, I'm sorry, but there really is a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, and also this was the difference between, I think, my mother and my grandmother. My mother would be like, okay, I'm cooking, the food is here. Granny is like, I want to give you the food the way that I want you to enjoy it, the way that I would enjoy it. My grandmother always had real butter. My mother had what is it? Park I can't believe it's not butter. What?
Oh, what was that?
Was it parquet? No.
Parquet, and
Oh yeah. Okay.
a little plastic container that you always kept and reused, right?
Okay. That part. So my love of butter came from my grandmother. I mean, I'm like, I can taste a difference. My mother would try to convince me that I couldn't. I'm like, I can taste the difference. Also, in my grandmother's kitchen, I learned the difference between just store-bought tomatoes and homegrown tomatoes. I actually thought that was the name, homegrown tomatoes, because my grandmother had a garden. She had quick pickles in the fridge. And interestingly enough, she would also had iced milk. She would never buy ice cream. Like, what's up with the iced milk? But, it was just like a ice cream with 1% milk. It was icy.
Yeah.
But my grandmother's kitchen was a place of joy. She was always singing. She smoked. She never learned to inhale. So there was too much smoke in the air. I remember smelling like cigarette smoke mixed with bourbon, because she always had a little bourbon, and there would be music in the background, but it was absolutely one of my favorite places.
What was she listening to?
She was listening to Nat King Cole. She was listening to, gosh, what's his name? I see his face. Like all of these old black greats. Oh my God, I see this man's face, clean shaven.
Lou Rawls?
No, not Lou Rawls. Older than that. It'll come to me. Girl, child, I'm menopausal. I have to reach back. But
but good music. Good music was on the radio.
It was really good music. And she would go through and she'd be singing. And my sister and I would talk to each other like that, with that bravado. Kim, how are you?
Are you talking about Johnny Mathis?
Johnny Mathis. Oh my
Because
girl.
the
Okay,
vibrato that brought it back,
come with
Johnny
it.
Mathis with the turtleneck and the pretty hair.
Yes. Oh, Michelle, come on. Thank you.
When
Yeah.
you with the voice, I was like, okay, that has to be Johnny Mathis. That has to be Johnny Mathis.
Yes.
What was so you had one grandmother was Thelma. What was this grandmother's name?
Freddie Mae.
Freddie Mae.
So Granny was
Okay.
Freddie Mae. Yeah.
Can you just say a word about her cornbread? Because there are a few things in life that are more delicious than cornbread.
Okay. So first of all, Granny would have the skillet in the oven. And when we got there, she would pull it out, pour the oil in, and push the skillet back into the oven. And then she would make the batter. She would pull the skillet out and it would have that hot oil in it. This is a skillet cornbread. So made specifically with yellow cornmeal. And then she would pour the batter in there. And because of the hot oil, it would roll up on the sides of the pan. And you knew those were going to be the crispy edges. And then she would put it back in the oven. And I knew that we would be eating in 30 minutes. And that cornbread, when it was split on in the top, and then this was the only place I did this. I would cut out a wedge. I would turn my cornbread on the side and put the butter on the cut side. So I wouldn't cut it open. I wouldn't put it on top. It was on the cut side of the wedge because that butter would just seep in.
Seep all the way in.
What?
We had the same childhood. I would do the same thing. You take a big slab of butter because people would cut it in half. I'm like, why are you doing that? Just put it on the side and it just goes all the way through.
Yes.
Efficient.
Yes.
Did you put honey on your cornbread?
No, I didn't like sweet cornbread. It was not, I wanted, I think like where I'm from in the South, I mean, Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee, our food is sort of a mix between, vinegary, like tangy, sweet and spicy. So the cornbread for me was for sopping up greens and the pickle juice and all of that. So I never wanted sugar, and maybe because that's not how it was served to me. So my palate doesn't really, unless I'm having like, I don't know, an appetizer of cornbread, it would never be sweet.
I love your grandmother. And I love the picture that you painted of your grandmother with her cigarette and her little glass of bourbon and her music on the radio.
Yes.
But I am surprised because you spend so much time in a kitchen and it is your comfort zone right now that you weren't cooking alongside her. I just had this image in my mind that you were an apron strings kid, that you would be standing next to her and sopping up her wisdom and cooking alongside her.
No. And the only time that I cooked, I was 12 and it was for a Girl Scout badge. And I had made an apple crumble. But other than that, it wasn't, and I wasn't necessarily invited into the kitchen. And I don't think any of my cousins, my first cousins, they weren't in the kitchen. I think it was, so I'm 61 and it was almost like it wasn't an invitation to be in the kitchen.
Yeah. I understand that.
Also, my mother didn't like to cook. My mother went to boarding school, so she never cooked. So it was like cooking was a chore, right? It's like, is it your time to do this? You know what I mean? And so as kids, we didn't have that chore. But I loved to eat. I mean, I loved food. I remember as a child, if I liked something, I would just eat it constantly. If oranges were the thing, of the week, I would just eat a bag of oranges until I was just like itching. If it was like, I only like homegrown tomatoes, but it was like a particular candy bar. I only ate that candy bar and I ate it every day for a month and then I didn't want it again for a year. So that's how I consumed food. And I remember their food. Like I would taste it and I could pull, a memory that is so visceral to me. And that's how I cook today. Like if I have something, I can pinpoint, even if I don't have the recipe, if I have the idea of what's in it, I know I can taste it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I smell that. Okay. Yes.
So you cook the way someone who was not classically trained would play by ear, sitting at a keyboard.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so is your grandmother your North Star when you think about how you put your own recipes, your own menus together?
Yes. She is my North Star. I also consider her so in our family, everybody came to her house for the family dinners, for the family reunions. When she passed away, well, actually, so she had dementia. And we realized it when the macaroni and cheese was changing. When, I think as kids, my mother may have known, but as a child, I'm like, why is this macaroni swimming in some milk? Like what happened? It's funny how we are not aware of certain things until like something that we've been eating all our lives. We're like, wait, no, this isn't right. Right. So because I didn't cook, I had to, the best thing for me to create is not necessarily her written recipes, but having something and remembering how something tasted. And I'll give you an example. I was on the Paula Deen show once, and everybody should talk about my grandmother's iced tea. Her iced tea was amazing.
Sweet tea?
Sweet tea. Come on, girl. You know the
Yeah,
sweet
well,
tea.
I figured, but for
That's
people
right.
who are
For the
not from the
audience.
South, I grew up in Minnesota. My father's in Birmingham, Alabama, so I understand what is the what.
Girl, I totally, I understand your palate from being like Birmingham, Alabama. So sweet tea, I'm on Paula Deen's show and she did, a big tea bag with frozen lemonade. And then she put in almond extract. I drank that tea. I'm like, oh my God, wait, this is my grandmother's iced tea. My grandmother had passed all these years. Nobody ever knew how to make her iced tea. It was the almond extract.
And so just that sip of that tea snatched you right back in time.
Yes.
To Lebanon, Tennessee.
Yes. And that is the power of food. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, you've just given me a beautiful memory. She said, well, that's what people tell me. But
I have never had almond extract in my sweet tea.
no, I'm telling you should try it. So when I think
will.
about almond, the flavoring, and my granny used that in her pound cake. She used it in so many things. It is the flavor that connects me directly to my grandmother.
I want to go back to something you said because it was deep. That you knew that your grandmother was changing because the macaroni and cheese didn't taste the same.
Right.
If you're willing to revisit that memory, can you talk a little bit about that particular family gathering? Was it a holiday? Was it a birthday?
It was. So we went there every Sunday. So it was like Sunday supper, just, and as we got older, it was less and less. It wasn't every Sunday. So I remember we would fix our plates in the kitchen and then we would take them to the den. And, so we have our plates. My sister's there. I remember my brother being there, my mom, and, nobody said anything when they were getting the macaroni and cheese in the kitchen, but
It just
everybody thought
the
it.
the spoon went in a little different than it normally
The
does.
spoon went in a little differently. It was like, I don't know what it was like. I remember turning to my sister and I said, well, what's wrong with Granny? What's happening with this mac and cheese? Cause this is mac and milk. And she said, I know. And then my brother, who is 18 years our junior, he just happened to be there. He's like, what's wrong with it? We're like, what? What's wrong with it? And then, we had this whole conversation. I said, Mama, what what's wrong with Granny's mac and cheese? She's like, nothing's wrong with it. I'm like, are you serious? This is not Granny's mac and cheese. And I think I was the first person who I was like, I'm interviewing people. Now I'm saying, okay, do you remember what Granny's mac and cheese was like? Do you remember it having the cheese sauce and sticking together and the cheese on top, and it was kind of brown and crusty around the edges? This ain't that. This is not right. What's wrong with Granny?
And so you were the one who paid attention. That was your first clue.
Mm-hmm.
Did the family listen to you?
Yes, and when your grandmother or your mom is going through a litany of names, you're like Carla, Kim, Bonita, Brenda, everybody does that. Everybody lives through that. And so we had been hearing that. And I think, my mom, eventually she got my grandmother tested. And I remember, the medicine for my grandmother. My mother was like, ooh, this medicine is expensive. It's like $1 a day. And my grandmother said, there are no memories that I have that are worth $1 a day. So she'd be like, I'm not paying for memories at $1 a day. Isn't that funny? I mean, she had a sense of humor.
It's funny, but that's they went through a depression. They lived differently. They would never think of going to Starbucks and paying $5 for a cup of coffee. I mean, that they just ordered their steps differently through life.
Yeah, that part. Yeah.
I asked you that because that's one of the first places that dementia can show up is in small things. And for someone who was so meticulous in the way that they cook, maybe the way they dress, maybe the way, that they set up their house. But that's where you can sometimes first start to see that. And it's also a reminder, to watch. So when it's your turn to make the mac and cheese, you know how to do it.
So, and to that point, I tell people, videotape your family members, the people who cook, videotape them, ask them questions so you can document that. Because even if they don't have a recipe written down, if they measure with a particular cup, or if you catch them adding an ingredient with a particular spoon, you've documented it. And then so you can go back and grab that cup and see how much it is, grab that spoon and measure it and see how much it is, right? Because then you're able to recreate them, and not from necessarily recipes, but from the videos. And you also get their voice. So my mother has dementia, and she was making hot water cornbread, and I filmed her making it. The interesting thing is, hot water cornbread is very different from skillet cornbread that my grandmother's making. So you take white cornmeal, there's some fat in there, there's hot water, the cornmeal blooms with the hot water, there's salt, and then, you make these patties and you fry it. It's so much a part of the muscle memory, for my mom to do it that nothing was lost. Do you know what I mean? Like there is this muscle memory and watching her. And again, her fingers in that patty that's now almost like the texture of Play-Doh. It was just beautiful. And I'm so glad that I captured it. But for my family, now that my grandmother is gone and I cook, I have called myself the culinary matriarch because it's up to me to create the legacy of these dishes and from my memory and senses. And so when I did my first book, a lot of them is I've had to recreate these dishes and taste them and adjust. And then I teach them to my sister's kids, and we serve them at holiday meals because this is what's left. Because if I don't write them down, then they won't be in the family.
But how generous of you, because you wrote them down. They're not just in your family, they're out in the world for the rest of us to enjoy also.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Rivian and their fully electric, full-sized SUVs and pickups that are designed for all of life's adventures. Now, I have to tell you, the incredible team at Rivian has gifted me with an R1S complete with a Rivian travel kitchen, and Snow Peak cooking gear. And let me just say, it's not just a car. It's a total game changer. Driving my R1S around Washington, D.C. or around Martha's Vineyard, where I spend a lot of time in the summer, has been just an absolute joy. But what really makes it special is the adventures that it unlocks. That travel kitchen, it's become my secret weapon. 2-burner induction cooking on a cooktop on one side, prep space on the other side, storage in this sleek little portable setup that works anywhere with electricity. I just plug it right into the electric outlet right in the back of the car, and I am ready to go. I've used it for everything: tailgates, beachside picnics, even impromptu roadside coffee stops. I mean, I can make bacon and eggs if I want to after a long walk. It's so fantastic. The ergonomic carrying case makes it a breeze to haul around, and the hangout lights, you just put them up and they sort of hang over the top so you can cook even in the dark. Instant ambience, no matter where I park. And let's talk about the tech inside this thing. The 360-degree camera makes city driving inside the vehicle a cinch. The premium audio system turns every drive into a concert, and there's a speaker that you can actually pop out of the car and take with you when you're out on one of your adventures. The self-driving features, a lifesaver on long road trips. But here's another really exciting part. Rivian has just launched a new R1S. It's called the Quad. This is Rivian's fastest, most capable vehicle yet. 4 motors, 1 for each wheel, for unbeatable precision on any kind of terrain. Whether you're carving sharp corners or tackling wild trails or out on the freeway, the Quad is built to stand out. Go check out the all-new Quad and all of Rivian's amazing vehicles now at Rivian.com. Trust me on this. You'll love it. The holidays are always a special time of year. I love how it brings everybody together. I love how it sets a mood where everyone tends to be in a festive holiday spirit. And I love how it fills the house with good smells, with laughter, with food, with music, way too many leftovers. And this year we're going to try something new. We've decided that we're going to try to take the celebration on the road. We're going to look for a space that's warm and inviting. Of course, a great big kitchen so we can throw down and make some delicious meals. We can maybe end the evening by sitting by the fire, by playing games, a really nice communal space. We hope to find all of that so our celebration at home can be enhanced by a celebration in someone else's home. I'm reminded of how special it is to spend time together in a place that feels like home, even when you're miles away. And it made me realize that while you're away, that someone else could be creating their own holiday memories in another home while you're gone. That's the beauty of Airbnb. Hosting isn't just about extra income. It's about sharing your space and helping people find an experience that will really mean something special to them, that will allow them to create memories and a feeling of togetherness. I love the idea that while my family is off celebrating somewhere new, or someone else's family is off celebrating somewhere new, that their home could be used by someone else to create a new set of memories that will last beyond the holidays. That's what makes hosting on Airbnb so special. It gives you a way to share the comfort of your home with others, and the extra income helps make even more holiday trips possible. And that's a great thing. Your home might be worth more money than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. What are the holidays like in your family, and how do your holidays now? And I guess we'll talk about Christmas in particular since it is December. How do your holidays, your end of the year holidays compare, Christmas, New Year's, to when you were a kid?
I think now it's more about food. It's about those dishes. It's not really the gifts. It's about people coming together, people coming over. We always make my grandmother's 5-flavor pound cake. We will always have macaroni and cheese. I love cookies. So, one of the cookies that I know my mother likes that my grandmother would make for her are the oatmeal sandwich cookies. So I'll make those, but I make them really small because my mother loves those. I
Oatmeal sandwich cookies. What's in
Yeah, so
between
it's
what's two
yes,
oatmeal
remember the
cookies
little
with something in
Debbie's?
between?
Yes.
What's in between?
Oh, what's in between? So in between is the buttercream, a vanilla buttercream.
Ooh, yum.
Mm-hmm. So you have to get the oatmeal cookie just perfect. It's with raisins. I mean, I know raisins seem to be controversial and
Well, no,
polarizing.
okay, but raisins are controversial when they're in potato salad. Raisins, you know, raisins are okay if they're on an oatmeal raisin cookie. That's where raisins belong. It's when raisins migrate, into places where they don't belong that they become controversial.
I don't know why I have a lot of people in my life who don't like raisins. I happen to love raisins. So the cookies have to be sort of chewy and crispy on the edges and thin so that when you sandwich them with the buttercream, they're not really thick and it eats as one thing. And so I know that my mother loves those. One of the holidays for me are a time when, after doing so many public facing events for everyone else, is when I give to my family. It's when I cook for them. I'm like, I know people's favorites. It's like, what do you want? Like I know my brother-in-law loves a pear frangipan tart, or I know, my sister loves fish or peanut stew, or, you know what I mean? Like some of these things. And so it's really how I give back to my family and friends. And I love that. And I spend days cooking. And if anybody wants to join me, they are absolutely welcome in the kitchen. But it's also this gift that can't be bought, you know? It's absolutely making it and saying to them, it's my act of love by giving it to them. It's also how I got into food, and I started cooking because I hadn't been cooking. I didn't cook when I was a kid. I started cooking like when I moved to Paris, but cooking started as an act of gratitude to the people who allowed me to sleep on their couches, and so it sort of remained to be that thing for me.
Let's talk about that, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your journey into the world of food. Since you didn't start out as a cook, you didn't plan to be a cook. It was a series of left turns that turned you into a culinary superstar. When you were in Paris, were you literally cooking to say thank you, or were you cooking also because the food was so great and you were trying to figure out how to emulate it in the kitchen?
Well, initially, I would go to this woman's house, Elaine Evans, and there would be a bunch of models, and most of them were Black. And
And we should note that you were in Paris in part because you were modeling.
yes, yes, correct,
Not
yes.
all of us can say that. Okay. So you should say that, and you should own that and strut on that, because that's
Yeah,
actually
so
pretty
I
cool.
I was modeling, and I was also in between. I had left accounting. I was working for an accounting firm, and modeling was the bridge between what I knew I didn't want to do and what I eventually wanted to do. And I didn't know what that was. So I was in search of that thing, that space that made me feel like it was a desire, like, something that I wanted to do. I was afraid of being 40 and hating my job, quite frankly. Um, and so when I started cooking, it was exploratory. It was like, why don't I know how to make macaroni and cheese? It was competitive. It was, wait, what? Like all these girls are saying, my mother does it like this, and my mother does it like this. I'm like, I had no idea how it was done. And even though I knew I wasn't going to find a macaroni and cheese recipe in a book in Paris, I started picking up cookbooks and just like going through them and making dishes for my friends. Um, but I also think that this it's like recipes or puzzles to me. Like I love figuring things out, you know. Um, so it's so many. It's food is just so many things for me. It's olfactory. It's figuring things out. It's like taking something from the invisible to the invisible. It is tasting it. It is sharing it. It's all of those things for me.
So how did you then develop not just the skills, but the confidence to start cooking competitively?
Well, I went to culinary school at 30, but then by the time I did Top Chef, I was 44. So that's 14 years that I'd been spending working in the industry, catering and doing a lot of different things. So, at this point, by the time I did Top Chef, cooking was the thing that I'd done the longest in my life.
So you bring so much to your work, beyond just the skill that you naturally have, the curiosity that you naturally have, the skills you picked up when you went to culinary school. There's something big about your personality. You're tall, but it's in here. It's not just size. And you were a theater kid growing up in Nashville. And is that part of it? Did that help you
Yeah,
when you stepped into this kind of stage?
it is theater. I think theater absolutely helped me on a show like Top Chef. I'm not afraid to be myself. I was very shy as a child. At 12, I wanted to be the Black Carol Burnett. I loved Carol Burnett. I loved um, Dick Van Dyke, Lucille Ball. I loved Sammy Davis Jr. I loved physical comedy, Jerry Lewis. I mean, I loved it. And then I saw my first play in New York, Bubbling Brown Sugar. And speaking of food, Bubbling Brown Sugar. In 1976, my uncle was in the cast and I was transfixed. There was, I forgot, somebody long. He sang this song, Nobody. And I don't remember the words, but it was like, who wants to da da da? Nobody. Who wants to go down there? Nobody. After that, for a month, my mother would ask me to clean the room. I was like, who wants to clean up that room? Nobody. I mean, they were like,
Oh my God. You were the most.
I was the most. And one of my mother's friends was like, put that girl into theater. And so I went to the YMCA. I did theater. Then I went to a theater camp. And I was so shy that theater sort of told me it was okay dare to be you, dare to be different. So when someone said that I was weird, I'm like, oh, wow, thank you. Because for me, the freedom to be yourself, regardless of what someone is labeling it, is your power. And so when I found food, when I do anything, it is like if I feel the freedom to be myself, I've won, you know?
Was your height part of that?
Yes. My height was because I was really
Because you were
tall.
you were tall early, right?
Yeah, I was tall early. I back in the day where they used to line us up by height, I was always in the back, and the guys were up front.
Because girls generally do get taller faster than the guys. They just mature faster in really every way, including physically.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was at least by eighth grade, I was at least 5'8". I'm 6 feet tall, but I was 5'8". So, and I just continued to grow. Um, but yeah, and I was gawky. I mean, I just had limbs for days and I played basketball in grade school. And this was at the time when there was half court. So the guys had full court, the girls had half court. My mother was not investing in tennis shoes. So I had buddies. And so I would only get in a game when they were like 30 points ahead. And when I would get the ball, I'm like, yes, I'm going to the line. And then those buddies would slide over the line and it was a turnover and it was not pretty. So this was, I mean, that's painting the picture of what it was like, me as a child. And so I was just like this kind of awkward girl, but theater was the thing. Yeah.
But when you talk about being awkward and made fun of a little bit and teased, I wonder if that is one of the reasons why you brought a certain spirit to your work as a judge, a
Mm-hmm.
culinary judge, because,
Yes.
a lot of these judges they're mean, they're just the side of cruel. I mean, it's like what you'd see in, it's the Gordon Ramsay prototype or what you'd see
Yeah.
in like The Bear, that sort of yes, chef model. And you brought something completely different. And I don't know if that was what you were asked to do or if that's just who you are. But as I listen to you talk about your childhood, I wonder if that is part of what created that approach to judging, which was a little kinder, a little more compassionate?
Yeah, I think because I also was a contestant, and I think by saying yes to doing those competition shows, you're saying yes to something that's really hard, something that most people will never experience in their lives. And so I didn't want anybody to break my spirit, and I don't want to break anybody else's spirit. What I want for you, whenever I'm doing those shows, I want to give you constructive feedback where you can get better, where also you will leave this show. This is not about this show. You will leave this show and this competition and choose another hard thing to do because you said you did it. And then you will eventually find your path and you will say, hey, I can do it. That is absolute. That's why I love doing these shows. I never want to break anybody's spirit. I remember when I was on Top Chef and I'm at the judges table and I thought I was going to go home. And this was the first time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my food was awful. It was between me and Radhika going home. And I'm like really nervous and I'm like shallow breathing. And then I'm looking at Padma, I'm looking at Gail, and I'm looking at Tom and, all shifty eyed. And then something came over me and I was like, wait, nobody has ever died here. I'm like, okay, girl, let me put this into perspective. And also I'm 44. I'm like, what the heck? Nobody's ever died. And I literally, I pulled my shoulders back. I looked directly at Padma and 'cause she was in eyesight and she had told this story later. She said, I would look at her and she was so uncomfortable because I was just like staring right down the barrel at this woman. But it put everything into perspective. And I think sometimes when you are afraid of something, if you allow that thing to happen, I'm not talking about jumping off a building or anything, but if you're like, wait a minute, if I give into this, what am I really afraid of? Is it rational fear or irrational fear? And I went on to win many challenges once I came to that realization. If I go home, I go home. I'm not dying.
And you live another day and you take on another challenge.
Yes, that's right. Even in real life, you live another day and you take on another challenge.
You have been very honest about your experience in the culinary world. And one of the things that you've been honest about is working in a space where you were surrounded by people who were paid more than you. And I know that that's a sensitive subject, that we don't talk about politics and money, but I actually appreciate that you were willing to talk about that because you learned some lessons about having to stand up for yourself, but also held a mirror up to the industry to say, how did you allow this to happen? Why was this okay?
When I was on the Chew, there was the point in time that I realized I was getting paid in a week, but the guys were getting paid in a day. So I was working 5 times as long to get the same, to get the same payment. And the reason I knew that is because they told me. And
sorry to interrupt, but they told you that you were being underpaid, or they just told you how much they were paid and you figured out that you were underpaid? Because those are two different things.
That part. They told us how much they were being, come correct. Yes. They told me how much they were being paid. And then I said how much I was being paid. They were like, what? Yes, that part. And there were a lot of other things at the Chew. I mean, the producers were like, oh, the guys are so much better than you are. So being on the Chew was really tough. The first 3 years, I thought I was going to get fired. And I remember Gladys Knight coming on the show, and I was like, oh my God, Gladys Knight. I grew up listening to Gladys Knight. She's from the South. Oh my God. And generally we were always paired with someone we could connect to, somebody who was part of our story or that we could relate to. I mean, I'm the only Black person on the cast. I'm a female. I'm from this generation who will love the woman who sang Midnight Train to Georgia. Okay. But I didn't get to cook with her. And Michael cooked with her, Michael Simon, and then they made, I think a smothered pork chop or smothered chicken. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So I called this meeting after being told the guys are better. And then this thing happened. I called a meeting. Cause I think at this point, I'm like, you know what? Nobody's ever died here. I'm
at that point, you might be thinking, not yet.
Okay, right. So I called this meeting and I said, Daphne, you should come. And so we were going back and forth and talking like to the executives. There were 3 executives there. And I said, if there was a reason that you actually didn't think that I would want to cook with Gladys Knight, that is your report card and you fail. If, if, if you, if there was a reason that I didn't cook with her and you didn't tell me so that I could actually get better, that is your report card and you failed. And so, I mean, I was saying everything that I needed to say because I really thought that I might be fired after this. And I didn't want to go home and say, oh, I wish I'd said this. I wish I'd said that. I'm like, I'm going to be completely clear. So my bucket of fuckers got real big. I was just like, I mean, but the executives, Gordon Elliott was like, okay, you're ready to get to work. And I think I needed to have that moment, just like I had on Top Chef. Like I have nothing to lose but to say what is on my mind and to do the thing. And a lot of times we don't do that for ourselves. We lead with fear. We actually, will put up with so much more than we should, but we've never tested. And I'm not saying in a way that is head shaking and defensive and all of that. I'm saying in a way that is true and honest and saying what you really need to say with respect. So, yeah, I did that. And then after that, I was better because I was fine. My prayer every single day on the chew was my authenticity. And I was the only one who could find that, you know?
I love that you tell that story because somebody needed to hear it. There's somebody who's in that position right now who will listen to this, who will watch this, and who maybe will approach their own workplace or their own situation, wherever it happens to be, a little bit different thanks to you. So thank you for sharing that. And you moved on to other great things, other adventures, new books, new opportunities,
Yes.
Awards, that have come your way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the gift that you will give your family. I loved what you said, that making a beautiful meal for your family at the holidays is the gift that you cannot buy. I'm going to be honest with you. It was a message I needed to hear because Christmas is hard.
Yes.
I sometimes struggle with finding the joy in Christmas because the to-do list is so long, right? And the expectation that you will provide a delicious Christmas, a bountiful Christmas, a perfect Christmas, a Christmas that is, where everything is well decorated and put in its place. And it's sometimes it's hard to do that and find the joy in it. And so remembering that this is why you're doing it. It's not for show. It's because you're giving people, you're adding to the memory bank. You're adding to the family legacy. You're providing, and I love that, the gift that cannot be bought. That is more valuable than anything that will be under the tree, than anything that you will find at the mall, is just coming together through food. And so we always gift our listeners with a recipe. And it sounds like the recipe that you want to share, you mentioned your grandmother's 5-flavor pound cake, is something that will be on your holiday table this year. Can you tell us about it? What are the 5 flavors?
Yes. So the 5 flavors are vanilla, almond, coconut, lemon, and rum. And one thing that I have changed about this cake, and I bake it in a tube pan, not a bundt pan. Yes, a tube pan. So it's a little higher. And also I put it in a cold oven. So the oven is not preheated. It is a very thick batter, very silky, very thick. And I put the pan in the oven and then I turn it on 325. It bakes in like 90 to 100 minutes. It's a slow baking cake and the crumb is tight and tender, and it seems like it wouldn't work. But the thing is, you don't want that blast of heat to let it rise and then it gets dry around the edges. I found this in some old recipe that I then took that technique and applied it to my grandmother's cake, and it works beautifully. So it is moist. It gets better as it sits. If you wrap it up and all of those flavors meld, it is so good. And it's so crunchy on the tops and the edges and just very tender inside. And if you're like my grandmother, you will take that and have it with boiled custard or creme anglaise.
Oh. I was going to ask if you put a glaze on top of it, but instead you have it with the custard or the creme anglaise. Does the coconut add to the density? And is that one of the reasons why you wanted to cook slowly?
No, it's an extract. So it doesn't. It just has a lot of eggs, a lot of flour. It's a dense cake. So when you think about a pound cake, it's almost a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, right? And it's
It
just
actually is almost like 5 ingredients. When I said 5 ingredients,
yeah,
it really
you're
are
right.
only a
It's
few
so
ingredients in a pound cake. And then it's the extract. So it's the extract of the rum, the extract of the lemon, the extract of the coconut. Could you use real rum?
Yeah. Yeah. I usually use real rum because I don't like the taste of imitation rum. So I use real rum. I do the coconut extract. If it's not too much, all the others are extracts. Yeah.
How do you serve it? Your grandmother would have it with custard or creme anglaise. How are you serving it?
One of two ways. Sometimes I put a lemon glaze on it. You mentioned the glaze. Sometimes I'll do a lemon glaze. Sometimes I will do a caramel sauce. I'll turn it into a caramel cake. For the most part, my family likes it plain because my mother just wants it plain, and any other sauces will be on the side. And so that's how people eat it. I love it. Sometimes toasted in a pan with ice cream. Come on, what?
See, I love pound cake, and so when you said pound cake, even though we've had pound cake recipes from other guests, Dr. Sharon Malone gave us her mother's pound cake recipe.
I love Sharon.
Isn't she the best? Jennifer Hudson gave us her grandmother's, because like you, her grandmother's kitchen was where the magic happened. And she gave us her grandmother's pound cake recipe, which has sour cream in it. And I don't think you can have too many pound cake recipes. So I was glad that you brought another one to the party. I love pound cake. And one of the ways I love pound cake is the next day in a heavy skillet with a lot of butter. Put the pound cake in the skillet. And then while it's kind of crisping up and browning a little bit, because it's already brown on the top, but then you get the brown on the wide edge. And then while you're doing that, you macerate some fruit.
Oh, come on,
just take some berries and, and then take it off. And on that crisp side, and then put the fruit on top of it. And then you just pour yourself a cup of tea. That's happiness.
I love it. And it's almost like a shortcake type vibe.
Yeah. Love pound cake. And I've loved talking to you.
Same. I've loved this. Thank you. I want to say one thing that, it's been like 18 years since Top Chef. And the thing is I love interviews where people have had a different take and, perspective on my story. And I appreciate you making the connection to Top Chef and to my days, like the way that I judged to when I was a kid and being tall. And I appreciate that because I'm going to take that away. I'm going to sit with it and I may learn something else about myself. So that makes it one of the best interviews when I learn a little nugget about myself. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I hope we get to cook together one day.
I
feel like I cook with you because you're on my shelf and I love your cookbooks and I use your cookbooks and my kids love your cookbooks. But one day when we can actually be in a space and cook hip to hip, or you're so much taller than me, hip to shoulder, maybe.
Well, next year I'm doing a baking book. It comes out next year and it's sweet and savory. So we should plan it. I would love that.
Okay. Count me in. I knew I was going to love that conversation. I loved it even more than I thought I would. Carla is special, and I love that she shared her wisdom, and I love that we learned a little bit about her origin story. And the nugget that I'm going to take away from this is the idea that cooking for the people you love is a gift that cannot be purchased. It's more valuable than anything you might buy, anything you might find in a retail establishment. And I am going to bring the spirit of that statement into my holiday season, and I hope that you are able to do the same thing. If you want to try the 5-flavor pound cake, you can find all the recipes from all the previous episodes at yourmamaskitchen.com and notes on some of the recipes. So I hope you'll head there. I'm going to try that pound cake. And it sounds delicious. And I might even have it with a little creme anglaise or custard, or I don't know how I'm going to have it, but I know I'm going to try it and it's going to be good. Thank you for being with us. I hope your holidays are bountiful in all of the best ways. Happy holidays. Merry, happy everything.